Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining Living Bread for this week. And today I want to speak something about our spiritual community where we belong to. We worship God and we have fellowship with other believers. The text is from John's Gospel chapter 5 verses from 1 to 7. Sometime later, Jesus went up to Jerusalem for one of the Jewish festivals. Now there is in Jerusalem near the sheep gate a pool, which in Aramaic is called Bethesda, and which is surrounded by 5 covered colonnades. Here a great number of disabled people used to lie, the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. From time to time, an angel of the Lord would come down and stir up the waters. The first one into the pool after each such disturbance would be cured of whatever disease they had. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" "Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool when the water is stirred. While I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me." This text can be interpreted from different angles, but I want us to look at it from the community perspective. I found 2 practical points that we can apply to our churches to become a better community of God. I will bring the first point today, and the second point will be brought next week. Since the pandemic broke out and we have had several lockdowns, people begin to realize that it is ever so important to belong to a healthy and caring community. In the text, we can see a small community called Bethesda, where all kinds of patients gather together in expectation that they could get cured by entering into the pool when the water is stirred by an angel. I found something very interesting, that there is a contradiction between the meaning of the name of the place and what actually happened in the community. As you know, Bethesda means house of mercy or house of grace. But the atmosphere of the community did not reflect its meaning. There was no mercy practiced in the community. Instead, there was always competition among the patients to get into the water first. People had me-first attitude, and there was no one who considered others first. Those who were less ill or less disabled could go into the water first, so that those who were critically ill could feel frustration and unfairness, even resentment. So, different from the meaning of the name of the place, Bethesda, House of Mercy, the place was like a house of shame and disgrace. If Bethesda was truly a house of mercy, they should have put the critically ill patient first in the water who had been ill for 38 years. In this pandemic situation, we cannot gather together physically in person to worship God and to have fellowship together. I think it's the right time for us to reflect whether or not we are practicing God's mercy and grace in our community amongst our church members. And it's a time for us to be grateful for the fact that we have a community where we care for one another, pray for one another, support each other, and grow together. It is also important for us to express our thanks and gratitude to those who are in the leadership positions for their prayer support, for their care, and for their many works that they do behind the scene for us. In order to make a community a better place, it is important to examine ourselves to know whether I, as a member of our church, practice God's mercy and grace. Let us keep praying that we all work together in harmony and unity so that God can command these blessings upon us. Let us keep praying that our church will become a community where people can see and experience the embodiment of the kingdom of God. In the church history, churches have not been much endangered by external forces such as attacks or persecutions. Although they are so painful and aggressive, churches cannot be destroyed by those kind of external attacks or persecutions. In many cases, churches were growing through persecutions in the 1st and 2nd and 3rd centuries, and also in many other countries where still Christians are persecuted. Amazingly, the churches are growing. But it is proved that churches have been endangered by many internal problems, whatever they are, such as schism and heretical teachings. When people do not care others, and when people want to be served rather than serve, the community becoming weak, endangered, and eventually the community does not reflect what it aims for. So there is a question for us to reflect during the week in terms of thinking our community and helping our community to become a better place. The question is, does my behavior and lifestyle reflect my community's reason for existence? In other words, does how I behave and work in our church reflect what our church aims for, what our church's vision is, and what our church to be? I pray that your church will become a better place because of you and your care, your prayer, your support, your practice of God's mercy and love. And people around you will be blessed and benefited through your active practice of God's mercy and grace, which is different from what happened in the pool called Bethesda. Have a wonderful week.